I am John Pollock. He is Wai Ting. Welcome to the Post Daily News Show for Tuesday, December the 14th. Happy Tuesday, Wai.
Happy Tuesday, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing tremendous. I'm doing outstanding. If the scale topped out at 10, I would say, give me more room.
Wow, that big. Okay.
No, it's
All
huge.
right.
It's huge.
I'm happy to hear it. That's
a nice shirt. I like it.
Thanks.
Yellow.
Yours is nice too. Plaid.
It's okay.
We match.
Yeah. Plaid is good for all seasons, all colors.
It's always the 90s here at Post Wrestling.
Well, we have our news items to get into. If you want to get in on the chat, we are taking your super chats at the end of the show. So get them in hot and heavy, and Wai will be navigating those before we sign off here. But Wai, we are going to get into some numbers first and foremost. It is what makes the wrestling world go round. It is the gasoline in the vehicle of this industry. And on Friday night SmackDown generating 2,142,000 viewers, up 5.5% for Brock Lesnar's overalls. And unfortunately, the demo, a drop down to 649,000 viewers, coming courtesy of Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. This would be even lower than last week's 18-49 number. Again, a new low since early July when they were still performing inside of the Thunderdome. So while they did get a overall audience boost, that was mainly the tale of their 18-49 audience, where women were up 15%, but men dropped 14%, and overall a slight decrease from the week prior. So I would say that, 2 weeks where Brock was the focal point, it was not enough to really uplift their key demo number, but nonetheless, it was still tied for second for the night among network programming with a 0.5.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of the big picture answer is for something like this. Is it just the season?
It's an unwillingness to embrace Canada. That's what it clearly comes down to.
What is the difference here? Why is Canada doing okay with this?
Well, you know what? Canada was up 41% in the 25-54 demo this week, Wai. So obviously, Brock Lesnar and Sami Zayn, they're moving numbers. It's just not in the country that pays them the most. So it's all in perspective. But I think the tandem of Brock and Zayn is tremendous. I enjoy them greatly. And actually, breaking news here, outside of Wai Ting's home, Brock Lesnar is currently hunting a moose.
It's a bit loud, though, isn't it?
Well, he's a loud man. He is hunting Pierce as we speak. But yeah, nonetheless, those are the SmackDown numbers. Rampage finished with 503,000 viewers and 237,000 in the demo. So of those two, almost totally flat with the week prior. Where you did see some major changes, it was in its female audience. Women 18-49 dropped 34% this week, while men were up almost 20%. Their 18-34 demo dropped 21%. And then in 35-49, they were also, compared to last week, down slightly in their female viewership as well. So what brought down their number this week was a loss of its female viewership. Big
question everybody wants to know. Hook. Has he meant anything for these ratings yet? And obviously not, I suppose. This is way too early, but, just you wait. Next week, maybe.
He was not a difference maker on night one, but it is always kind of interesting to see what, a subset fascination that Hook certainly generated on Friday night and in the weeks/months leading up. The curiosity over this individual did not translate to a national audience, but nonetheless, I think if you just view it strictly as a presentation, I think this is someone that you can certainly see the makings of someone that could be much bigger. And I think it's quite a lofty set of circumstances to place on one individual's shoulders for a number.
Yeah, of course.
So those were your Friday night numbers. Later today, we will have the numbers up for Raw as they draw closer to day one. We were going to focus on this other story, which first of all, Fightful Sean Ross Sapp did some tremendous reporting on this story coming out of the World Class Pro Wrestling Show over the weekend in Irving, Texas. And this was a really ugly incident where Devin Nicholson was wrestling under his mask as the Blood Hunter. And it involved this angle where he was stabbing a referee, and this went way too far and ended up with this referee, Lando Del Toro, suffering numerous lacerations. He had to be taken to the hospital. Cops were called and were questioning people at the show. And it was just a really nasty incident. Devin Nicholson has since posted a video explaining that he thought that some of the wounds, I guess, had been done by the referee when he was blading himself. He was given no indication that he had hurt him, stating that it was hard to see out of the mask, and blaming the weapon that was given to him, which, I mean, really, like, any kind of weapon in a pro wrestling setting can be very dangerous if not used properly. But this was just, I don't know what more to add to it, Wai, other than there's no place for this in wrestling. We talk about, like, the ultimate foundation of pro wrestling is trust when your body is being put in someone else's hands, and it should never result in these graphic photos that we have seen of this official and having to be hospitalized on top of it. And it's sort of just one of those things where when you have independent companies that, like, you don't have kind of oversight, like, this stuff can exist, and it's kind of left to the companies to police themselves. The company did put out a statement stating they will no longer work with Devin Nicholson, but then Nicholson in his statement stated, I had already quit the company by the time they put that statement out. So there's a lot of details to this, but ultimately, like, there was an individual here who suffered significant injuries as a result of this angle that went, just horrifically off the rails.
The photos are incredible. I mean, the footage is incredibly hard to watch, and the results afterwards in the form of these injuries are incredibly hard to see as well. I don't even really want to put it up on the podcast video here, but it's if Devin Nicholson has decided to quit the company, I'm guessing he should have probably quit the entire industry as well, because I don't see any wrestling company booking him again. And if there is a company that does book him, I can't see an audience supporting it. There's no excuse, like, not just for, I think, the incident itself, but for the trying to pass it off as any sort of work. It makes me incredibly uncomfortable even trying to talk about like what possibility there is here for justification, and I don't see the audience needing something like this as a part of this sport when there's so much else, like, even people that are, like, great at it, and I don't know if this person ever was, but, like, even people that are great at it, we hardly have enough spots for. So I don't see how somebody like this, like, has a place in the industry.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think there were people that were very conflicted on their feelings of New Jack, that, he became this character that got glorified, and it's like, I could never get past, like, some of the stuff that this guy did, and it was just considered, like, part of the act. It was part of the appeal of a New Jack. But it's like that, man, there was trust that was broken, and it was like, I have no time for this kind of stuff. It's just it's horrific to detail. I do encourage people to look at the reporting up on Fightful. They went to great lengths to speak to many different people that were there and involved with this as well. TMZ Sports has also covered this, so this is grown into a story with some spotlight on it. And I guess the company, they kind of had to react in some way to this on top of it. Matt Hardy got together with his brother Jeff recently, and Matt Hardy was on his Twitch stream and gave a bit of an update on Jeff Hardy. We have the transcript of this courtesy of Andrew Thompson up at postwrestling.com, and I'm not going to read the entire statement here, but suffice to say, Matt Hardy kind of feels like WWE might have jumped the gun and felt, they released Jeff, and kind of alluded to the fact that a drug test was done and that the results will come back, and to, essentially pay attention to those results, and adding to the fact that, when this happened to Jeff in 2003 and he turned down rehab and was let go by the company, he was very concerned for his brother. It doesn't sound like he has those concerns now. He believes that Jeff is in a very good place, and that, again, to look at when this drug test comes back, and that Jeff, it's his story to tell, and believes that Jeff will, share his side of all of this, because he has been quiet since this whole story went down and the release. And it's kind of, you're looking at essentially two different sides here. But the WWE obviously felt they felt like they were in a position where they had to make this call, and that's kind of where things stand here. And I guess the next chapter of this way is hearing Jeff's point of view from this, and if that is going to change any minds out there. I think the one thing I think everyone can make a pretty clear conclusion of, the vast majority of, is that they are hoping that Jeff is okay. I think that's the number one concern here, and hoping that this is not a case of someone denying any problems, that there is a clear ending to this in a positive fashion.
Yeah, I mean, all of this concern, I think, really just kind of stems from an audience that really likes this wrestler, and I think justifiably sees an incident like what took place at the house show and wants some answers, and if not answers, just the knowledge that this person is taking the appropriate steps to take care of himself. Not necessarily giving an audience an explanation is absolutely, I think, his choice. But at the same time, that's going to come with a lot of questions. In this situation, I think seeing, if there's anybody who would be concerned about Jeff Hardy, the person who would be most concerned would be his family. So I absolutely trust what Matt Hardy is saying here. Jeff Hardy has appeared in like a video on his YouTube channel talking about his upcoming concerts that he's supposed to do. I have to imagine if Matt Hardy, somebody who I think he feels a big deal of responsibility for his brother, is willing to, vouch for him in this way, put him on his YouTube channel and do all this sort of stuff. I take that as, like the sign that I think he's okay. To what extent, I mean, we kind of leave it up to him to fully explain.
Yeah, like that's completely his right of what he wants to disclose or what he doesn't. He doesn't owe anyone any kind of explanation. Like the company took its action, but it's up to Jeff how he wants to address this or not address it. That's totally in his court. But I think it's only natural way that if he puts out a statement believing like with his side of it and believing he is okay, it's naturally going to open up the question of another company looking at Jeff. And I just hope that the proper work is done to assure that Jeff is, like, there's responsibility on any companies that want to use Jeff as well to make sure that they're not just contributing to a potential problem. And if there is no problem, that's great. But there's obviously there's enough out there that there's responsibility that comes, I think, with anyone that wants to use Jeff and not just simply bury your head in the sand about stuff like this either.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all that said, hopefully he comes out of this, healthy and down the future. I mean, first of all, like hopefully all that is taken care of. But after that, hopefully more stuff between the Hardy boys together.
The one other thing that Matt did bring up was the decision of WWE to use his problems as a storyline and just adding to those problems. And I think that's something that I think at the time people were very uncomfortable with. And we kind of just go to this notion that, well, he must have been on board for this. And I don't know. It's troubling when I understand that you want to bring elements of reality into your storytelling. There's a long history that reality are the stories that connect the most. But at the same time, when you are a recovering addict, that is never something that is just gone. It's a constant struggle. And is this helping or hurting the person? And it seemed like Matt thought that this was just creating undue problems for Jeff to have to, be subjected to promos and putting all of that out there on top of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just even watching it, even if like Jeff Hardy was in agreement with it, I would suggest that it was probably in pretty poor taste for most people, especially people that maybe have had similar experiences. I believe like we had Kristen Ashley on, reviewing some of those shows, and she gave, firsthand account of like how it made her feel. So, even if Jeff was on board with it, I don't think there's that much of a justification for doing so. And knowing that Matt Hardy was against it, I mean, it could be the case where Jeff was okay with it, but I think Matt being outside of the would have a different perspective on it, and one that I think much of the audience shared.
And maybe sometimes we have to look at the fact that just because a performer is saying, "Oh, I'm okay with this," I mean, they're also in a situation where it's, am I going to create that friction with a company rather than just go along with something? You would hope that you can work in concert with your company, and there are people looking out for you on top of it, even if you might think it's a good idea on top of it. The Tokyo Sports annual awards came out in Japan. Quickly just list off the winners here. The men's MVP for Wrestler of the Year went to Shingo Takagi. The women's MVP to Utami Hayashita of Stardom. Match of the Year to Go Shiozaki and Keiji Muto from back in February, where Muto won the championship. And I mean, of the matches Muto had this year, this would certainly be at the high point. Would not be my match of the year, but nonetheless, it was, Muto is going to carry some weight in these awards with the reporters that vote on these. Dangerous Tekkers, Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi as Tag Team of the Year. Outstanding performance to Jake Lee of All Japan Pro Wrestling. The Fighting Spirit Award to Konosuke Takeshita of DDT. Great Okan with the Technique Award. Newcomer of the Year, Yuki Arai of Tokyo Joshi Pro, and Rumi Kazama receiving the Distinguished Service Award. So there are your Tokyo Sports Awards, which are carry a lot of weight in Japan. Like, this is obviously the major Tokyo sports paper that puts these out. They are voted on by reporters, and definitely somewhat political in nature. Some of these, like in terms of who gets the awards, spreading them around to the different companies. It's more so kind of trying to tell the story of the year and putting a spotlight on different companies at all across. But I would think in terms of the men's and women's MVPs, hard to argue with those options that they went with.
Yeah, I've been pretty disconnected with the Japanese scene outside of maybe, the G1 for my own consumption this year. So it's hard for me to say whether or not this is agreeable. Would you say the rest of these awards are credible in your opinion, or do you disagree?
I mean, match of the year, I would not, I wouldn't put Go Shiozaki and Keiji Muto in my probably top 30 matches this year. But I think it's there for the significance of Muto, and like these awards. I mean, they're not exactly there's a certain element of this that is almost like embracing kind of the, if this were real. They treat this match closer to like Randy Couture beating Tim Sylvia for the heavyweight title in terms of this remarkable achievement for Keiji Muto. So it's, I mean, they're not awards to get all up in arms over either. It's fine. Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr., I mean, they had a fine year. I don't know if they're Tag Team of the Year, but yeah, it's the Tokyo Sports Awards. NXT tonight, we'll see the debut of Harland. Parker Boudreaux. Yeah.
Okay. Yet another name that I hadn't really known before all of this, that we're getting to see for the first time. It's another new character, one that we have seen, in the background, but it's another debut.
Does that picture that you're staring at, does it tell you higher than a 0.11?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody on any of these pictures is that at this point. I don't think there's, if Johnny Gargano giving his farewell speech isn't going to spike a big rating for NXT, I don't think any of these people really stand a chance. And I don't know if that's necessarily the point. I hardly think they're putting on Harlan as any sort of rating straw. It's to introduce a new character and to give this person experience, and to produce a show. So what else we got, John?
No holds barred match between Cameron Grimes and Duke Hudson, a rematch from War Games, where Duke Hudson is doing the Kurt Angle gimmick with the wig. So
yes,
you would imagine that this culminates with, they always do this with the hair loser, where they then hide their bald head, and then you get the reveal after a long chase.
Yeah, they're just kind of going through some of the greatest hits. It feels like sometimes. But again, it's to get these people ready potentially for a main event or main roster role.
Braun Breaker will take on Roderick Strong, your cruiserweight champion. Cora Jade versus Dakota Kai, and Andre Chase will take on Tony D'Angelo. So we have 5 matches announced for tonight's show. I think you'll get a good match out of Grimes and Hudson with the no holds barred stipulation attached to it. Breaker and Strong. I mean, it's very interesting to see the quality of guys that they put in there with Braun Breaker to shine in singles matches, and Roderick Strong would follow in that pattern for them. I mean, they are putting him in there with their best guys.
Yeah, I mean, any match with Roderick Strong is almost like a guarantee to be good. And how good? I mean, this is another test for Braun Breaker. And I mean, for Roderick Strong, how are they going to book him? Nobody really outside of Tommaso Ciampa is beating Braun Breaker lately. But also, Roderick Strong has a championship that they at least are treating somewhat. They're not jobbing him out. So I'm kind of curious how they get out of this one.
Probably beating the cruiserweight champion. That would be my guess.
Potentially. Yeah,
we'll see what value they have on that cruiserweight championship, because Braun Breaker, you are grooming for another match with Ciampa, which maybe they will set that in motion for the New Year's Evil show that's coming up on January the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. That is NXT 2.0 coming up tonight. Where tomorrow we will share some of our thoughts on the program.
Yeah. So no super chats today, and that's totally cool. Maybe we'll get some tomorrow, but otherwise, maybe we'll sign off and continue recording whatever we were recording prior to this, John.
Oh, what are you talking about? We're not allowed to talk about that.
Never a dull moment here. What else is up on the site right now?
Well, you can go check out Rewind a Raw from Monday night. Way and I going through the show from St. Paul, Minnesota. It's a fun episode. We had very divergent views on the show, so that always makes for entertaining banter. So we go through that show. You can also catch all of the upcoming programs, including Up Next tonight. Braden and Davey will be live at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/UpNextPodcast. And then we're back tomorrow, 1 Eastern, with the Daily News Show and Rewind to Dynamite Wednesday night for Double Ice Cap and Espresso patrons. So that is it for us. Thank you to everyone for joining us live, and we will speak with you this same time tomorrow.